Don Mazzella here. We have with us a very, what I consider an extraordinary guest because she's done a lot in a very relatively short time. Paulina Quintana, I hope I pronounced it correctly.
You
Uh,
did.
okay, is with us here to talk about her companies, how she goes about things, and towards the end, I'd like to talk about how she finds um, being a small business uh, leader, some of the things that she's learned. But first, we want to know a little bit about herself personally, then about her company, and finally a website. Paulina, welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me. Well, part of my background, I was a kids clothing designer for quite so many years, about 13. I kind of got into it haphazardly. I was an art student at UCLA, and I was kind of typical in that way of making my own clothes, making art, kind of living that art school life. And then my niece was born, and I started making her clothes. And one thing turned into another, and next thing I know, I was designing, clothes for 13 years, 20,000 pieces every season. And that had its challenges, and it's definitely, running a small business was very difficult. I had also two small kids. So, that company kind of phased out in a way that kind of allowed for me to start this company. My kids are now grown, so there are difficulties when you run a small business, and being a mother. This hanger company, we make hangers out of 100% recycled material, was really kind of launched in the sense of that, I had designed kids clothing, and anytime I sent my clothing out to a big box store, they always kind of had to be put on a hanger, a temporary hanger, because you would send your clothes out, it'd be on a hanger. The big box stores would receive your merchandise, most likely ditch the hanger because the plastic hangers that they made us use were so not really aesthetically pleasing. So they would take the clothing off that hanger and put it in their store on their own hanger. So the lifespan of this hanger was really just a week from point A to point B, and then it got ditched. So after I had my clothing company and I was kind of figuring out what to do next phase, it kind of dawned on me that, we do have an incredibly huge plastic pollution problem. And there have been some major advances in using recycled plastic. So I got to brainstorming, what could I do? What could I do? I really want to use recycled material because, as we know, plastic pollution is really kind of, we're drowning in it. I had the idea of like, I'm just going to make a hanger. Everybody needs a hanger. So, it was definitely inspired by my time working in an industry, the fashion industry, that, has its problems, obviously, as far as sustainability, and figuring out what could I do in the next phase of my life now that my children were older. So, the idea hit, and I spent a couple of years researching, and I really had to find a manufacturer that had the same ethos as me. And having grown up in LA and California, that sustainability is kind of like, if you grow up here, you're kind of, born with it or ingrained in this culture of our, taking care of our planet. So, the hanger seemed like an obvious choice for me.
Okay, well, and your company?
My company is called Re to the X, and it's a visual logo and a visual looking identity, and in the sense of that, we have parentheticals that are around the prefix re, re, which means again. And The X is, kind of can be an exponent of different variations of rewords. We have to, I think, kind of move away from this mantra that I grew up with. I'm almost now 50, from my youth, which is reduce, reuse, recycle. And while that's fantastic, it's, 30 years later, we still have a problem. So the name of the company really encompasses kind of rethinking, reimagining, reconstituting, repurposing, all the different rewords that mean, again, because at this point, we actually need to figure out what we're going to do with all this plastic that, from the time it was born has not gone anywhere. Yes, there has been, more and more people being exposed to the benefits of recycling and using recycled products. But really, it's like we definitely had to like reshape the way we think with our relationship to plastic. So, the prefix really has, definitely a wide range of vocabulary words that you can adopt to ways on how we are going to re-inspire people or revitalize people to start really thinking about how we're going to really recycle plastic.
And your website, before we go even further?
The website is re to the X, and it's spelled out RETOTHEX.com. So re to the X.com.
Well, this is dangerous, but do you have one of your hangers nearby?
I do. I've got a couple. So our hanger was designed in the sense to be really a bit sturdier, kind of reinvent the hanger in a way, which is, if you think about this ubiquitous item here, it's, at the end of the day, it's a hanger, but how can we make it so this hanger doesn't end up in a landfill? And a lot of it is making sure that it's a lot thicker, a lot stronger, and really kind of this bridge at this section that will prevent any kind of breaking in the traditional breakage points that a normal plastic hanger has. The idea is to really make it so this doesn't end up in a landfill, that if this happens to break, we'll pick it up, it'll come to us, and then we will regrind it to make more hangers. So while it was kind of engineered not to break, if it does, we have a plan for that too. We just don't want these ending up in a landfill. We have got 2 hooks that were kind of inspired by our ocean, I guess, protective attitude. And then we've got some bumps here that will prevent anything from slipping. So that's the hanger. We have 9 colors.
Do you have white?
No, we don't have white, because white, you cannot, with recycled material, it ends up looking like a really kind of not so aesthetically pleasing beige.
Really?
And that's just the nature of the recycled product. All our 9 colors have a different journey. So depending on the color, has different components of recycled product. Starting with the brighter colors, red, orange, yellow, those tend to have a lot more post-consumer, meaning just recycled product, as opposed to beach estuary cleanup, ocean-bound plastic, and ocean plastic. So let me just talk about what those 4 things are. Post-consumer plastics are just people actively recycling. Beach and estuary cleanup is, I work with a manufacturer in South Africa who partakes monthly to have riverways and beaches cleaned up. Ocean-bound plastic is collecting plastic within, I believe, the requirements is, 500 meters from, no, 500 meters from a river source or a water source. What my manufacturer, who uses micro recycling plants, so these are, just imagine a container that gets deployed into impacted areas, he puts them right about 25 meters. So all the plastic that is considered ocean bound is plastics that is collected 25 meters away from a river or a water source. So if you think about knowing that 80% of our ocean plastic comes from the land, whether you have a landfill that is near a water source, so after torrential rain, where does that plastic go? That plastic goes into our waterways. So that's the third component of the hanger. And then we have ocean plastic, just really taken out of the ocean. As you get darker in color, the ocean plastic from the ocean gets higher. And if you can think about, when you mix all different colors on a palette, you get a really dark brown or black. So our black has 55% just straight ocean plastic, and then the rest gets broken down into the ocean bound, beach and estuary, and post-consumer. We do have a QR code on the back of our package and our packaging that can show people exactly where, with like a geo map location, and the percentage of all those four different recycled plastics of the hanger they purchased. Transparency for us was really incredibly important. Don't use any plastic that's get shipped from country to country, which is becoming a bigger and bigger problem because people aren't finding economic solutions to recycle at home. So knowing exactly where this plastic comes from is incredibly important. On the QR code in the back, you can find out exactly the river source, the collection source, and the percentage of each one of those plastic, depending on the color.
Wow, we got a lot more than, I'm really glad. I have to tell you something. If you'll hold up your
Hanger?
hanger,
Here's a light blue one. We have, I have light blue,
no.
I have black, red, yellow, green, navy.
Okay. Well, I remember many years, a lot of years, almost before your children were born, talking to a manufacturer when plastic hangers first came out, and he said he saved money by not having that little piece across the top. It's funny. I remember that, but
well, this is the important piece. If you don't have this piece, the hanger will break.
eventually,
And I think if you are a virgin plastic manufacturer, I think you want, not only do you want to save money, you want your product to break so people buy more.
yes. But
Right?
how much does your product go for in the store?
$18 for a pack of 10.
So that's $1.80 each.
Correct.
Okay. At the Dollar Tree, I can get a package of 6 for $1.
Right. And that's the dilemma, where you can go to Target and buy a pack of 10 hangers for $2. Couple of things wrong with that price point. One is, you know, the hangers are made in such a way that they're going to break, and you're going to have to end up paying more over time, right? So the life cycle of that hanger is so short, especially if you have teenage boys or girls, you know, that you're going to end up having to buy more hangers in the long run. These hangers were designed to mimic more of like a wood hanger, where you buy them and you'll never have to buy another pack again, right? And then the second one, which is the second problem with, you know, 10 for $2 or 10 for $6, is they're made from virgin plastic. We've gotten to the point that virgin plastic doesn't need to be used anymore. We have so much plastic still on our planet, in our world, that we use all the time, that we don't have to make anything else from virgin plastic ever again. I always say the one field that I give a pass to is the medical field. And hopefully sooner rather than later, we figure out how to make IV bags or syringes out of recycled plastic or a different material. But really, the cost of continuing to make things out of virgin plastic is unsustainable.
I agree with you, but I'm not an environmentalist by any sense, but I understand that. But now you came up with this product. You did the research. Are your products made in South Africa, or are they made here?
They're made in South Africa. We are, you know, after the plastic material gets collected, it goes to my manufacturer, and this was the kind of the important reason why I chose Ocean Plastic Technologies, is that they not only have these micro recycling plants, they are in complete control of their supply chain, right? So they collect the plastic, they make my mold, they sort the plastic, they empower communities and educate people to recycle, and you know, employ really kind of disenfranchised population in South Africa. So my packaging was made, so cut, printed, assembled by a single moms group in South Africa. OPT, Ocean Plastic Technologies, employs workers with HIV, and some employees who are albino. And these are really kind of a group of people that have been kind of disenfranchised. So, you know, as OPT continues to grow, I know that he's willing and wanting, he's got these 50% funding to create these micro recycling plants in Alaska. He is looking to do some micro recycling plants in North Carolina. So eventually these hangers will be made in the US, but as of right now, they are made in South Africa.
Okay. Your website again, before we go any further.
It's re to the X. So it's www.retothex.com.
Okay. Where are your hangers available?
Right now, so we just launched and we did our first trade show in New York. The new museum, which is a contemporary art museum in Manhattan. As an old art student, I'm very proud to be in their gift store, having been to the museum so many times, and really kind of appreciate the kind of artwork that they exhibit. There is S. Feldman in New York, which is up in the Upper East Side. There is a home goods store called Tarzian in Brooklyn. I think because I did this New York trade show, it's really East Coast right now. There is a store called Ikram in Chicago that they're at. There is an upholstery store in Rhode Island. So it's starting. And we're going to do another trade show next month. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully we'll get some more West Coast. I definitely feel that this is a West Coast product, but unfortunately because of COVID and whatnot, trade shows have been not, they haven't been open. The trade show called New York Now that I did in New York was at the Javits, and it was the first trade show that the Javits had since it had been a hospital for COVID. So,
yes.
I think things are kind of slowly picking up. And I think as we kind of like reemerge from this pandemic, I think people are hopefully going to have maybe a different relationship with what's important to them and where they're going to put their purchasing dollars.
Well, I'll tell you flat out, if you create an ad, I'll be happy to put it up on our website at no charge.
Oh, thank you. That'd be great.
It's a great product. It's a product we need, so be happy to do it. So.
Right, and I think if we can start really kind of understanding that we have the power to support small businesses that are actually doing good work and putting, the planet and people before profit, I think we could really, make some changes, much needed changes.
Well, could we pivot for a moment, because last week a friend of mine, a lifelong friend, he had his first grandchildren, twins. Okay, and I went out and I bought their first Christmas outfits, and it ended up costing me $55. And my wife said, "Well, that's a pretty good price for children's clothes." So,
there's definitely there's ranges of pricing for children's clothing. I'd like to think, depending on the person, some things can be cheap and some things can be expensive, right? I think it's all kind of relative. I know that I was selling dresses for, they would retail for $40, and I would get both sides of that coin. Wow, that's really cheap. Oh, wow, that's really expensive. So, I think it's all where people are at and what they feel comfortable spending, right? I think maybe what we do for our children as opposed to our grandchildren might be different.
Well, that goes without saying. Well, spoil the grandchildren, but
Exactly.
in fact, and I went to a baby a couple of years ago. We went to a baby show at the Javits, and it just surprises me. But I guess it does have to do, I guess, who's buying the clothes, because essentially, whatever clothes you buy are only going to last at most 1 year before they outgrow it, hopefully.
Because unless you have multiple, unless you have multiple children, when I was designing, I made, this dress was a cute little smocking dress, which was very traditional, but I made it kind of untraditional in the sense of, the patterns chosen and the colorways. But, the smock is that elastic band that goes around the top portion of the body. But, that dress that you bought at 40 turned into a shirt and then it turned into a skirt, and then it, there's creative ways to make things work. And I still kind of get emails from old clothing customers, saying that their Paulina Quintana kids clothing stuff still has been handed down and it's still in amazing shape. When I made kids clothing, I manufactured in the States, and quality was a premium for me, and paying people a living wage was a premium. So, I think if you make something well the first time around, cut to the hangers, right, then they should last, and they shouldn't rip, or like in terms of clothing, they shouldn't rip or discolor or anything like that. Same with the hanger. You make a premium product or not a premium product, depending on where you lie in that spectrum of being able to afford things. You make it once, and then you have it for life. And and that's kind of what we're dealing with the plastic pollution problem. So, trying to make a product that really can outlive us and not go to landfill, and actually kind of take away and subtract from this problem that we have.
Okay, Paulina, we've unfortunately come close to the end of our time. What would you like to leave our audience with today?
I think, as I don't think we've touched about being a small business. Being a small business is incredibly difficult, and you work for yourself, and everything starts and stops with you. I do think that for me, making things was always something that I wanted to do, and hence I went to art school. So I think if you have an idea, you see it through. I mean, yes, there'll be some economic, investment, but I think if you can if you think a well thought out product, then it'll bring you kind of a sense of independence, and you can really kind of put your philosophy of what you think and what you believe in to the company. And, as somebody who definitely buys sustainable things, and I research what I buy, I think, that's the beauty and maybe a curse of having a small business, right? Like, it's great that you can put your own philosophy and really kind of stick to what you want to do. Then the curse would be the buck stops with you. So, you have to make some wise decisions with not much, kind of paths or trails being put out that have come before you. And especially in this kind of sustainable market that, trying to enter, it's a relatively new one, as far as doing the right thing. And there's been a lot of kind of chat about greenwashing and making sure that we're just not kind of throwing a green sticker on something and calling it good for the planet. So, it comes with a lot of research and a lot of work. So that's what I can leave you with.
Okay, but I'll ask you once again, your website
is www.retothex.com. So re to the X.
On that wonderful note, we'll say thank you for
so
joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's been great. I love talking about taking care of our planet.
You do a very good job. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.